que ilumina y riscalda. Veo tus ojos, Jesús sonriente, llamas a un nuevo continente.
Livres de amarras, leve bagagem, cheio de ternura, somos esse fogo que arde. É tempo de reavivar o fogo, é tempo de reavivar, é tempo de reavivar o fogo.
It's time for us to revive the fire. It's time for us to revive. It's time for us to revive the fire. Fuego.
Des humbles originaux.
Fuego.
Des courageuses jeunes missionnaires.
Fuego.
Du rêve missionnaire de Don Bosco.
Fuego. Oceani e confini, i sogni diventano realtà, sogni di vita, sogni del regno, fuoco que ilumina y riscalda. Veo tus ojos, Jesús sonriente, llamas a un nuevo continente.
Livres de amarras, leve bagagem, cheio de ternura, somos esse fogo que arde. É tempo de reavivar o fogo, é tempo de reavivar, é tempo de reavivar o fogo.
It's time for us to revive the fire. It's time for us to revive. It's time for us to revive the fire. Fuego.
Des humbles originaux.
Fuego.
Des courageuses jeunes missionnaires.
Fuego.
Du rêve missionnaire de Don Bosco.
Fuego.
Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego, es tiempo de reavivar, es tiempo de reavivar el fuego. Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego, es tiempo de reavivar, es tiempo de reavivar el fuego.
Oltre oceani e confini, i sogni diventano realtà, sogni di vita, sogni del regno, fuoco que ilumina y riscalda. Veo tus ojos, Jesús sonriente, llamas a un nuevo continente.
Livres de amarras, leve bagagem, cheio de ternura, somos esse fogo que arde. É tempo de reavivar o fogo, é tempo de reavivar, é tempo de reavivar o fogo.
It's time for us to revive the fire. It's time for us to revive. It's time for us to revive the fire. Fuego.
Des humbles originaux.
Fuego.
Des courageuses jeunes missionnaires.
Fuego.
Du rêve missionnaire.
sogni del regno, fuoco que ilumina y riscalda. Veo tus ojos, Jesús sonriente, llamas a un nuevo continente. Livres de amarras, leve bagagem, cheios de ternura, somos esse fogo que arde. É tempo de reavivar o fogo, é tempo de reavivar, é tempo de reavivar o fogo.
It's time for us to revive the fire. It's time for us to revive. It's time for us to revive the fire. Fuego,
Des originaires,
fuego,
des courageuses jeunes missionnaires,
fuego,
du révolutionnaire de Don Bosco.
fuego. Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego. Es tiempo de reavivar. Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego. Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego. Es tiempo de reavivar. Es tiempo de reavivar el fuego.
Oltre oceani e confini, i sogni diventano realtà, sogni di vita, sogni del regno, fuoco che illumina y riscalda. Veo tus ojos, Jesús sonriente, llamas a un nuevo continente. Livres de amarras, leve bagagem, cheios de ternura, somos esse fogo que arde. É tempo de reavivar o fogo, é tempo de reavivar, é tempo de reavivar o fogo.
It's time for us to revive the fire. It's time for us to revive. It's time for us to revive the fire. Fuego,
Des humbles originaires,
fuego,
des courageuses jeunes missionnaires,
fuego,
du révolutionnaire de Don Bosco.
fuego.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your participation. We are once again drawing your attention to some communication from previous meetings. They are essential for a quality meeting and the smooth running of this session. We hope you were able to choose the language channel you chose to follow this missionary formation session. Our meeting will last approximately an hour and a half, 90 minutes. We ask that you turn off your microphone and turn on your webcam for the entire duration of the session. At the end of the meeting, we will have the opportunity to say goodbye, and then we can turn on our microphones. Only in that event of internet connection issues should you turn off your webcam. In this case, please indicate what's the matter, what the problem in the chat. Otherwise, it's wonderful to be able to use the Zoom platform to foster a sense of community by seeing each other, even if you are not present. This is also a gesture of consideration and gratitude to those who can participate in the training. Let us try to live in the present moment. Let us choose to stay and decide to live these moments with a sense of belonging to the Institute. We ask you to enter the name of your community, country, and the acronym of your province in the Zoom chat. At this moment, we give you small time for you to write the name of your community, the name of your country, and the acronym of your province in the chat for us to record. Today, we will continue the fourth meeting of the PEM online pilgrimage, organized by the mission sector in collaboration with the Missionary Spirituality Project team. This meeting will focus on the place where the first daughters of Mary, Help of Christians, arrived on the American continent. This meeting is part of the 3 years preparation for the 150th anniversary of the first missionary expedition. The theme is, now is the time to rekindle the fire. 150th anniversary of the FMA mission. And the 3 years of preparation are from November 14, 2024 to November 14, 2027. This meeting will take place as follows. We will start with the greetings from Sister Ruth, the General Counsel of the Mission Sector. A brief opening prayer led by the PEM team. The presentation, always by the PEM team, about the presence of the first FMA to northern Patagonia, Junín de los Andes, 1901-1916, with the presentation of the missionary community of Junín and the biography of some of the sisters of the community. Then there will be the best practice of a current missionary experience and will be present by some newly missionary sisters in Europe, especially in the British province. After that, there will be the group work within each community and the feedback from the group work. We will conclude our meeting with a concluding prayer. So today, we will highlight the courageous strength of a community of missionaries who inspire with their witness, awaken desires for holiness that blossom in some young people of Patagonia, Laura Vicuña and Seferino Namuncula. We give now the floor to Sister Ruth for a brief greeting.
Carissimi fratelli e sorelle, giovani e adulti compagni in questo pellegrinaggio missionario. Giungiamo oggi a una tappa molto importante che ci aiuta a focalizzare una realtà viva che è al cuore della vita cristiana e del carisma salesiano, la comunità. Dopo esserci lasciati riaccendere il cuore dell'ardore missionario e aver allargato lo sguardo verso orizzonti più ampi, oggi siamo invitati a sostare e a contemplare la forza contagiosa della comunità, il luogo concreto in cui la missione prende forma e diventa testimonianza visibile del Vangelo. La missione non è mai un cammino solitario. Nel Vangelo Gesù non invia mai i discepoli da soli, li manda insieme a due a due. La comunità è uno spazio di vita e di relazione permeate di umanità e di Vangelo. È nella comunità che impariamo ad amare come il Signore ama. È in essa che il Vangelo diventa credibile, incarnato, quotidiano. Don Bosco lo aveva compreso profondamente. Per lui l'educazione e la missione nascono in un ambiente di famiglia, in un clima colmo di valori umani e cristiani, in cui ciascuno si sente accolto, riconosciuto, accompagnato. Un ambiente che non impone, ma propone, che non giudica, ma accompagna, che non spegne, ma fa fiorire. Anche Madre Mazzarello esprimeva l'intensità dell'amore per Dio in modo trasparente nell'amore fraterno, creando vincoli di affetto tra le sorelle, le giovani e le famiglie. In questo clima tutte puntavano alla santità, si volevano bene e si accoglievano con le loro risorse e fragilità. E proprio in un simile ambiente educativo, ricco di relazioni autentiche, di fede vissuta con semplicità e di amore concreto, che sono sbocciate esperienze luminose di santità giovanile e missionaria. Pensiamo ora concretamente a cosa è successo in Argentina. Abbiamo nel cuore Laura Vicugna e Zeferino Namuncurà. La loro santità non nasce da gesti straordinari, ma da un contesto educativo capace di trasmettere il Vangelo con la vita. Ambienti in cui si respiravano valori umani profondi e una fede semplice, testimoniata da educatori e comunità che vivevano ciò che annunciavano. La testimonianza dell'ambiente salesiano ha preparato il terreno perché il seme della grazia potesse crescere. È lì che Laura ha imparato a donare la sua vita con amore. È lì che Zefirino ha maturato il desiderio di seguire Gesù con cuore puro e spirito missionario. La comunità è stata per loro luogo di accompagnamento, di discernimento e di santità possibile. Anche oggi nelle nostre comunità educanti la missione passa attraverso questo stile. I giovani, gli adolescenti, le famiglie non cercano certamente comunità perfette, ma comunità vere, comunità in cammino, in cui si respira fiducia, ascolto, rispetto, perdono e gioia. La forza della comunità è contagiosa quando si cammina insieme nelle diversità, si accolgono le fragilità senza giudizio, si costruiscono relazioni autentiche, si sceglie di rimanere uniti anche nelle difficoltà. Così la comunità diventa segno profetico capace di generare speranza, accendere desideri, aprire cammini di futuro. Nella comunità educante salesiana ciascuno ha un posto. Le sorelle, i laici, le laiche, i giovani, i bambini, le famiglie. Insieme diventiamo comunità missionaria, testimonianza credibile che perché il Vangelo dà senso e sapore ad ogni vita umana, al di là di ogni circostanza. Auguro a ciascuna delle nostre comunità educanti di riscoprirsi il luogo di testimonianza missionaria, dove l'amore vissuto insieme diventa annuncio e la comunione si trasforma in forza contagiosa. Che il nostro modo di vivere insieme continua a preparare il cuore di tanti giovani e famiglie all'incontro con il Signore e a generare ancora oggi cammini di santità quotidiana. Buon cammino missionario a tutte e a tutti.
Now, Sister Nancy Chucho and Sister Cari Gomez from Argentina, members of the PEM team, will introduce us to the meeting with the opening prayer.
To go on pilgrimage is to walk with faith in your heart and complete trust in God, who guides and enlightens the believer's journey. We go with this certainty of the mysterious presence of the God of life, who always takes us beyond the peaks, beyond what we imagine or dream.
After having made a pilgrimage in Uruguay, Villa Colon, Las Piedras, after venturing into the land of Don Bosco's missionary dreams and getting a glimpse of the mission in Argentina, Almagro, La Boca, reaching the peak of our journey into Patagonia with the sisters and the Salesians who arrived in Carmen de Patagones and Viedma, and from there spread out in all directions. Today, we will reach the high peaks of the mountain range in the mission of Junín de los Andes.
Some names of courageous missionaries from our religious family remain in our memory. Angela Valese, Giovanna Borgna, Angela Casullo, Teresita Mazzarello, Teresa Jeddah, Angela De Negri, Mother Maddalena Martini, Octavia Bossolino, Father Luis Lasagna, Father James Castamagna, Father John Caliero, Father Joseph Fagnano.
Today, we are going to cross borders until we reach a place that symbolizes for many a beacon of light, radiating the clarity of the holiness of Laura Vicuña and Severino Namuncura, the mission of Junín de los Andes.
Junín de los Andes, Mapuche territory of the Namuncura, which today guards the remains of a blessed Severino, holy land that saw a holy girl grow up and give her life, Laurita Vicuña, a town that, with Laura and Severino, embraces a Lady of the Snows and continues to believe and trust in the God of life.
We are about to enter a holy ground, and we invite you to let yourself be carried away by the Spirit who wants to reach us and lead us beyond the high peaks, as he did with Laura, with Severino, and with the missionaries who came to these ends of the earth. Let us pray with the song.
Deja que mi espíritu te alcance y déjate guiar, déjate llevar más allá, más allá. realidad será el amor, pues tu ideal es alto y bello, déjate llevar. Sabes que te amo, que junto a mí siempre estarás, que junto a mí estará tu gente, déjate guiar. Vamos, las cumbres no detendrán los pasos que se entregarán al amor. Vida ofrecida recibirá en abundancia mucho más de lo que da. No tengas miedo, entre mis manos vivirás, y al otro lado de las cumbres hallarás la paz. Alas potentes te llevarán aún más allá, a las que cruzan las montañas de la adversidad.
Sister Nancy and Sister Carrie will now present the historical context and the city of Junín de los Andes, with a missionary community that existed from 1901 to 1916.
The city of Junín de los Andes is located at 780 meters above sea level, between lakes and mountains in the southwest of the province of Neuquén. It is the first Argentine town founded in the territory of the province of Neuquén, located in the northwest of Patagonia in the Andean region. The town is surrounded by low hills belonging to the Andes mountain range. To the west, on the border with Chile, stands the imposing Lanín volcano, 3,776 meters high and greatly influential in the history of the native peoples who respected and feared it. Before the Spanish occupation, the region, like the rest of the country, was inhabited by the indigenous peoples who some 2,000 years before Christ already frequented the coast of the Neuquén River and the Rio Negro or Coro Lufu, which in the language literally means Black River. They were of the Tehuelches race, like the natives of the rest of the northern Patagonia, and their domain extended throughout the Pampas Patagonian region. However, about a century before the May Revolution of 1810 in Argentina, the Araucanians who came from Chile and were much more civilized and at the same time more warlike than the Tehuelches occupied the lands of Neuquén, Rio Negro, and the south of the current province of Buenos Aires as far as the Atlantic. They called themselves Mapuches, or people of the land, and inhabitants of the western foothills of the mountain range. Being stronger and more warlike than the Tehuelches, they Araucanized the region. These two peoples, the Mapuches and the Tehuelches, shared the immense natural spaces living off the products that nature provided them and paying tribute to the Mapu, which means earth, and Nguenetchen, meaning God, for the gifts they received year after year. They were not subordinate to each other. Their alliances were highly cohesive in the face of common enemies, but they were transitory. We must remember that the Spanish settlers in the west came from Chile, and from there they founded the cities of the Cuyo region and explored New Queen. Since then, numerous explorers, also attracted by the search for the mythical city of the Caesars, have traveled through the region. The bellicosity of the indigenous people prevented both the initiatives of the religious and those of the expeditionaries from succeeding. Therefore, one of the most serious concerns of the Argentine government in the first decades of independence was the indigenous problem, which is why they had to maintain the famous lines of fortresses, fortlets, and military detachments, which sought to extend the border into the so-called desert and defend the settlements from attacks by indigenous raiders. It was urgent to effectively extend sovereignty to the entire Pampas and Patagonia, and the only way to do so was to integrate the indigenous people into civilization and populate the immense territories before other nations set out to do so. In 1879, the Argentine government planned and launched the Great Desert Campaign, whose slogan was to subdue the indigenous peoples, control them, and protect the territorial borders of the emerging republic. In the first expedition of the Argentine army, the vicar of the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires, Monsignor Antonio de Espinosa, the Salesian Father James Costamagna, and the priest Father Bota served as chaplains. It was the only way for the Salesians who had arrived in Argentina 4 years earlier to enter the long-dreamed-of land of Patagonia. On May 24, they were able to celebrate the Holy Mass for the entire militia present there, and thus the Salesians' entry into the true Patagonia took place on May 24, the Feast of Mary Help of Christians. Following the itinerary, on the 2nd of June 1879, they arrived at the place known as Chimpay, a place of rest in Mapuche, later surrendered to the defeated chief Manuel Namuncura, and where on 26 August 1886 his son Severino would be born. In 1882, in a second campaign called the Los Andes, the Salesian missionary Monsignor John Calero arrived with the army at what would be later become the city of Junín. He was eager to establish a new settlement there on the banks of the Quimihuin River. On 14 February 1883, construction began on a fort, although they had been sent with the specific intention of laying the foundations for a settlement at the express request of Monsignor John Calero, who was the apostolic vicar of Patagonia based in Viedma. The birth of a new missionary center in 1892. During its early years, Junín de los Andes was more of a military post than a town, but a new chapter began with the arrival of the Salesian priest Father Dominic Milanesio and John Ruggerone in 1892, who visited the area as missionaries. In early New Queen, although unpopulated, belonged to the then Archdiocese of San Juan de Cuyo, but the Salesian priests came as missionaries from Carmen de Patagones and later from Viedma. 1892, the birth of a new missionary center. During its early years, Junín de los Andes was more of a military post than a town, but a new chapter began with the arrival of the Salesian priests Dominic Milanesio, and John Ruggiero in 1892, who visited the area as missionaries. In reality, New Queen, although unpopulated, belonged to the then Archdiocese of San Juan de Jicusio, but the Salesian priests came as missionaries from Carmen de Patagones and later from Viedma. Father Dominic Milanesio, a symbolic figure of the Salesian mission in this region, settled permanently in 1895 and founded the Salesian House with 2 schools to care for the native children, providing them with food, education, and evangelization. At that time, the town had just over 400 inhabitants and was a military detachment and the only village in the area. It was very well located on a bend in the river, chosen by the military because it was a strategic point with access to the mountain passes to Chile and easy access to the surrounding regions, conditions that were also needed for a mission center and which today make this town an excellent tourist center. The residents had fulfilled the wishes that the missionary had expressed to them in 1892, and although they were very poor but rich in faith, they handed over to the missionary with great joy and satisfaction the chapel, which was almost ready for use but lacked everything necessary to function. Its walls were built with mud mixed with straw, poured into formwork, well plastered and roofed with zinc sheets. It was dedicated to Our Lady of the Snows. Although Monsignor John Caliero learned very late that the new foundation was already a fact because Junín de los Andes had no telegraph, he thought of completing the new community with another priest. In 1897, to cover the apostolic work of Father John Ruggiero, who was more fond of missionary adventures than school, Father Augusto Cristanello was sent to Junín de los Andes in March of that year. Father Cristanello, who dedicated himself to finishing what was left of the building and stayed to form the community of the nascent missionary center with Father Dominic Milanesio, who, for his part, devoted most of his time to missionary work in the area or obtaining resources to support the work. On 15 August, the new church, now completed and dedicated to Our Lady of the Snows, was opened. Father Cristanello became the confessor of our Blessed Laura Vicuña. Father Milanesio had been an excellent and zealous missionary in his prime, but he did not adapt well to a sedentary life, much less to school discipline and schedules. Financial administration was not his strong suit either, as he easily obtained resources which he used at his discretion for construction, without reporting his accounts to his superiors. Nor could he remain still, and continued to mission or seek means to sustain the work, which was already well underway in Europe. So he was absent for most of his directorship, and thus it began to decline due to lack of authority. On this point, the historian Father Caetano Bruno wrote, "For both the Salesians and the Daughters of Mary of Questions, the situation of prolonged isolation, which made visits by the superiors of Viedma difficult, and the inability to carry out the exercises and find physical and moral relief, proved fatal for both communities and for the recipients of the mission. In addition to this, The director of the house, Father Dominic Milanisio, hardly ever stayed there, with a consequent inconvenience of the people being precariously governed for many years. Part of the building constructed in Junín by the Salesians was reserved for a community of Daughters of Mary Help of Christians, which Father Dominic Milanisio had requested from the province of Chile because the visitation of Viedma was much farther away and the transfer would have been too difficult. On 28 November of that same year, 1897, he left for Santiago de Chile to look for them. It was not until 29 January 1899, after many vicissitudes and a long and arduous journey crossing the Cordillera that lasted 9 months, did Sister Angela Piay, Rosa Azucar, and the young postulant Carmen Opazo arrive in Junín de los Andes to take charge of the housework, the cooking, laundry, and a small boarding school and school for the poorest girls, especially the indigenous girls of the area. The little house they found when they arrived was a school that Don Milanisio had built next to the boys' school, so that it could be a school for young people from Junín and also for those from neighboring villages who could be accommodated in a modest boarding school. It was so modest in the beginning that they remembered that the only table was used for everything and was carried triumphantly from here to there by the girls. The same was true of the benches and the only chair. The religious community of the Daughters of Mary of Christians, with great witness, will overcome the many difficulties and fragilities that isolated life, far from any urban center and without its own resources to meet basic needs, places them in a great difficulty at the beginning of the mission in Junín. It was a community that was able to create a family atmosphere and shelter for many girls and women who were desolate and in need of protection in those distant mountainous lands. In this place where much was lacking, but nothing was lacking for those who wanted to become saints, the heroic holiness of Laura Vicuña Pino matured, and she was received together with her sister Amanda the year after the school was founded.
We are now about to listen the biography of some of the sisters of the community of Junín de los Andes.
The brief biographical accounts that we will present will give an idea of the character of the first missionaries who would have a particular influence on Laura Vicuña's education and her path to holiness. We can speak here of a community and a pedagogy of the environment that nourished Laura Vicuña's spirituality. Let them tell us about their journey of dedication and rekindle our inner fire that sets us on the way along the ever-new paths of the mission. Sister Angela Piay, energy dressed in kindness. I was born in Vittorio Veneto Italy on 30 September 1860. At the age of 28, I clearly felt God's call and entered the institute. I joined the novitiate on 30 December 1888 at the house of Nidsa, and I pronounced my first vows on 20 August 1890. Shortly thereafter, I was admitted to perpetual profession. I was almost 30 years old, and my heart was full of availability. From the beginning, the Lord asked me to take long and challenging paths. I left my homeland and walked from Veneto to Piedmont, and then crossed oceans, Peru, Chile, Argentina. My life was a mission in motion. One of the most significant tasks entrusted to me was to accompany the missionary expedition to Peru, to begin a charity project for orphaned and abandoned girls at the Sevilla Institute in Lima. When we arrived in Lima, it was not easy. We did not know the language, and the girls came from the streets with difficult histories and a lot of pain behind them. I learned that kindness opens doors that harshness would never open. As directress, I experienced many difficulties, but I never lost faith. I tried to lead as a mother and older sister, without shouting, without authoritarianism, with firmness and tenderness at the same time. I worked hard even when my health was not always good. In 1898, I was sent to Chile, and shortly afterwards I was asked to collaborate on a new mission, Junín de los Andes, in Argentinian Patagonia. I accepted without hesitation. We crossed the mountains on horseback, without experience and with many difficulties. The journey was extremely hard. I arrived with injuries and a lot of physical pain, but with immense joy. Junín was a small, humble village surrounded by nature. The house was poor, but the people were simple and generous. Soon the girls began to arrive, and the work was intense. The climate was very cold, the buildings were precarious, and the demands were great. Even so, I always tried to maintain a serene and confident spirit. The community was sustained by faith, by work, and shared love. There I met and accompanied Laura Vicuña. Her short and luminous life touched my heart deeply. I sensed that God had a special plan for her. And with humility, I knew how to make room for those who were to accompany her more closely and spiritually. My task was to care for her as an educator and mother, with respect and discretion. I have always been a woman of strong character, but with an open heart. I knew how to correct when necessary, but I also knew how to forgive, embrace, and cry with those who suffered. I loved the girls deeply, especially the poorest and the most wounded. Everything I did was for their own good. In 1902, we received a visit from Monsignor John Caliero. It was a great joy and a confirmation of the value of this silent and hidden but fruitful mission. Today, looking back on my journey, I recognize that I was nothing more than a woman who was available, sustained by grace, convinced that holiness is built in everyday life, in work, in patience, in the smile offered even when it is difficult. Sister Rosa Azucar, Patient and Luminous Charity. I was born in Santiago, Chile on 30 August 1875. I came from a socially well-positioned family, but one that was deeply religious. I was the youngest of several siblings and grew up in a home where faith was lived with consistency and simplicity. I received a good education, typical of the time and my environment. I was a quick learner and had very vivid memory. Over the years, the poems I learned as a young girl stayed with me and became a simple way to bring joy to community life. While I was a teenager, I met some daughters of charity who worked with young children. I was deeply impressed to see women who gave their lives to God by serving the little ones. Without fully realizing it, my educational vocation began to take shape. However, I did not feel called to work with young people from wealthy families because my heart was clearly drawn to the girls and young women of the village. Thanks to the wise spiritual guidance, I was introduced to the Salesians. Father Dominic Tomatis saw in me what I myself was beginning to discover. My vocation was to be a daughter of Mary of Questions. At 19 years old, I began to learn about the Institute, and its educational and joyful spirit coincided perfectly with my way of being. I remember well the day when one of my brothers came to look for me. Convinced that I was going to leave, he brought me clothes and shoes so that I could return home. I had already received the cape and medal of apostolate. I was happy and determined. There was no turning back. On 29 January 1896, I received the Novice Medal. Shortly after, the Mother General, Caterina de Guerro, visited the community and assigned me to work with young girls. It was a providential decision. There I discovered how much I loved to educate through closeness, through joy and constant presence. While still a novice, the missionary request for Junín de los Andes arrived. Generous sisters were needed, willing to do anything. I was chosen to accompany that mission, so began one of the most intense and happy stages of my life. During the long wait of the foot of the mountains in Las Lajas on 6 January 1899, I made my first religious profession. It was a very profound, simple moment filled with God. I took my vows in a humble room with just an altar and a few chairs, but the joy of the people and my own inner peace made that day a true celebration. The journey to Junín was long and hard. There were trains, horses, coldness, fatigue. We cooked with the little we had, sometimes using only a cup, and yet calm, good humor, and deep happiness reigned. I felt that I was exactly where I should be. We arrived in Junín de los Andes on 29 January 1899. It was a place poor in resources but immense in possibilities. The house was very humble. A single table served for everything. The benches were moved from one place to another. There was almost no furniture, but the essentials were abundant: the presence of God and the desire to serve. I took care of the girls tirelessly, in the school, in the playground, and in the dining room, in the chapel, in the dormitory. I played with them, taught them to pray, to sing, and to love the Eucharist. My greatest desire was to bring them closer to the sacraments and help them to discover that God loved them deeply. There I met Laura Vicuña, a special girl, delicate and profound girl whom God was preparing for a heroic sacrifice. Accompanying her growth was an immense gift. Not everything was easy. There were trials, temptations, physical tiredness, and illness, but each difficulty taught me to trust God more and more and to live with humility. Whenever a concern arose, I took it to the directress. Peace returned. Over the years, I returned to Chile and served in different houses. I was a teacher, assistant, catechist, nurse, in charge of whatever was needed. I never measured sacrifices when it came to the good of the children and the young people. My secret as an educator was simple: perseverance and patience, sustained by true love. I wanted to teach, yes, but above all, I wanted to love. Today, looking back on my life, I can say with simplicity that I always had an only one ideal: union with God and the salvation of souls. I worked, I suffered, I prayed, and I tried to smile at everything. Sister Ana Maria Rodriguez, a life consumed in humble simplicity. I was born in Funza, Colombia, on 27 August 1859. From a very young age, life placed me in a position of responsibility. My parents died when my siblings and I were still young, and for many years I took on the role of both mother and father for them. My first mission was to take care for them, support them, and ensure that they had a decent future. Over time, I managed to open and run a private school in my hometown. There I educated young people from important families, offering them not only a good academic education, but also a solid human and Christian education. It was a task I carried out with responsibility and seriousness, and many valued and respected me for that. However, very few knew what was in my heart. Outwardly, I was immersed in the social life of my environment. Inwardly, my heart already belonged completely to the Lord. I met the Salesians who had been present in Colombia for some years. Under their spiritual guidance, I clearly discerned God's call. Meanwhile, I continued to accompany my younger brothers and sisters until I saw them on their way. When I knew that they were safe and secure, I understood that that was the time that I was waiting. I wanted to be a daughter of Mary Hop of Christians. They did not yet exist in Colombia, but that did not stop my decision. I left my school in the hands of others, encouraged by Father Evacio Rabaliati. I left for Chile on 1st January 1896. It was a great separation. I knew I would not return to my homeland, but my heart was very much at peace. I was received into the institute at the age of 36, in fragile health, but with extensive educational experience and a deeply rooted faith. I began my postulancy in Santiago and then my novitiate. One of the greatest gifts of my short religious life was meeting Mother General Mother Caterina Taguero. Her presence confirmed in me my vocation and helped me to deeply love the simple and apostolic spirit inherited from Don Bosco and Mother Mazzarello. I had a strong and energetic character, but I worked hard to control myself. I wanted to correct with love, never to hurt. I lived with austerity and a spirit of sacrifice, even in the midst of constant physical pain. For years I had suffered from a serious head condition as a result of an old insect bite. I endured a very painful operation without anesthesia, praying silently. myriad of questions do help me. The pain never completely disappeared, but it did not stop me either. I made my first religious profession on 29 January 1898. I then heard about the missionary dream of Junín de los Andes. I wanted with all my heart to be a missionary. Years later, when my health seemed to improve, I asked to leave. The doctors had their doubts, but I obtained permission. I arrived in Junín on 25 February 1901. I was 42 years old. The Lord granted me only 8 months in that mission, but they were intense and meaningful. I felt at home from the very first day. I did not pay much attention to my pains. Work and love for the girls filled everything. I devoted myself especially to the older ones. Among them was Laura Vicuña, whom I prepared for her first communion, and to whom I gave a special care, and I felt rewarded with special affection from the girl. I looked for 1,000 ways to help them love, study, and faith. Small rewards, timely words, simple gestures. Preparing them for the first communion was one of my greatest joys. I spoke to them a lot about the love of God and Jesus in the Eucharist, inviting them to visit Him, to give thanks, to make reparation. I taught not only with words, but with my life. After class, I cleaned the common areas and tidied up anything I found out of place. That also educates. Everything could be an opportunity for formation. I lived those months giving my all. On 28 October, I gave my usual catechesis to the girls who were preparing for communion. The next day I felt ill, but I still went to the chapel, participated in the prayer, and received communion. When I returned, I asked to rest for a while. I thought it was just tiredness, but it wasn't. The pain was intense and brief. The Lord came to take me on 30 October 1901. The whole of Junín, especially my students, mourned for my departure. I left quietly, confident, having given everything I had. My life as a missionary was short, but I believe that love is not measured in time. The seed was sown. From eternity, I continue to accompany those who walk with simplicity, humility, and total dedication.
It's the moment now to hear a good practice of a current missionary experience presented by some of the new missionary sisters in Europe, in special way in the Great Britain province.
Hello everyone, my name is Nhung and I am a daughter of Mary of Regions. Vietnam is my homeland. I was sent to the United Kingdom to start the mission with other Salesian sisters. I am always grateful and happy in my vocation. I'm happy not because there are no difficulties, but because I know Jesus is always with me and I receive a lot of love, welcome and help from my sister and everyone. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Glenda and I'm a missionary in Scotland. I've been here for 1 year, and in my 1 year I've interacted with young people, I've interacted with different people from the parish. My interaction with them has helped me to raise fundamental questions such as, what does it mean to be a missionary today? and what is my role in the lives of the young people today. My 1 year has been incredible in the sense that it has helped me realize that learning does not end, because I'm learning and I'm relearning certain things that are not part of this culture. So being a missionary in Scotland has helped me become a better Salesian sister, and has taught me to blend my beliefs, my cultures, and the cultures that I've found here. And it's a challenge to all of us Salesians working with young people that we need to study the challenges and the needs of young people where we are. So being a missionary means being ready to learn, and being ready to give yourself fully without judging anyone, because anyone is a holy ground. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Swandan, and I would like to take this opportunity to look into my 2 years of mission here in the where God had landed me in His Holy Land. Especially in this Jubilee year, the holy year of the Church, Pilgrims of Hope, and the word of the Saint Paul is still in my mind. This mystery is Christ among you, the hope of glory. The glory of our souls can be fully united with God here and now. And this hope is, for me, like a seed planted by those who came before me, and it has been nurtured through many years of the hard work and keeps growing by day. And now God has blessed me in His vast field to join our sister here in discovery and understanding this hope. The same seed He planted and has cared for, and He allowed me to see His mystery in these people I meet on His Holy Land. And I remember the prayer of Saint Gregory of the Great. God is in all things, but not limited by them. He is outside all things, but not left out. And He is above all things, but still close to them. And for me, every day is like a new pilgrimage, a chance to find God's presence in my heart, in my relationship, and in the world around me. I keep asking God to guide me, to guide my thoughts, words, and actions, so that together with our sister here and others laboring in His great harvest, we can continue sharing this hope with others in our daily lives for the glory of the Holy Trinity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Carrie and Sister Nancy. Now we will have a moment of sharing in groups by educational communities. We must answer this question: how has this testimony rekindled my missionary passion? We will not have a feedback in a group session, plenary, but each community must think of a word summarizing the sharing achieved in the group, which they will include in the evaluation tool. This time, this is an important opportunity for learning and sharing together as an educational community. Allowed all participants to express themselves, and then spend the last 5 minutes try to summarize the word or words you shared in the group and that is standing out from your meeting. So in the Zoom chat, at the end of the group sharing, you write the word that emerges from the group. We also ask you to fill out the link for the evaluation of these 4 meetings held in March and April. The link is in the Zoom chat. The link is posted in the Zoom chat. You can find it there, open it, and fill it together in the last 5 minutes of your meeting. We thank you for responding by filling out the form. It will be useful for the continuation of our online pilgrimage in the second part of this year. Now, each community in the group, and you can have your moment of sharing, about 25 minutes. Do not abandon the Zoom platform. Don't disconnect your connection. Stay in, so it will be easy to come back for the conclusion of our meeting. 25 minutes. The last 5 minutes used to find the word to post in the Zoom chat and to fill the link that is posted in the Zoom chat. You have the last 5 minutes to summarize your meeting with a word and to fill the form for the evaluation. Everything in the Zoom chat. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I remind you that the recording of this meeting will be available on the website of our institute and the PEM YouTube channel starting Tuesday, April 21. Today, we conclude the first 4 meetings of the PEM online pilgrimage. We will meet again in October and November to continue and conclude our pilgrimage. So we will see each other again on Sunday, October 11, 2026. That it will be the first of the last 4 meetings. Thank you all for participating. And a special thanks to everyone involved in the realization of this pilgrimage. The missionary sector, the sister of the 150th anniversary commission of the first missionary expedition, the global mission team, the PEM team, and the translators of the various languages. A heartfelt thank you to Sister Chiara Cazzuola, our Mother General, and to the Sisters of the General Council for their desire and support in realizing this project. Our affection and prayers extend to them during these months as they are pilgrims in the communities of the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians across the 5 continents. To all of us here, we wish a happy Easter season and a happy month of Mary, our Salesian month. May you prepare well for the World Feast of Gratitude, which, as we know, will be held in Ecuador next Sunday, April 26th. We conclude our meeting with a brief moment of prayer led by Sister Carrie and Sister Nancy. Thank you.
Let us conclude this journey through the holy land of Junín de los Andes by revisiting the places and landscapes that makes this place a beacon of light that gives clarity to the pilgrim. We want to live in the hearts of all who participated in this pilgrimage. The certainty that God has looked with compassion on His people and has sent them shepherds with hearts like that of His beloved Son. Today, He also invites us to seek with compassionate hearts the sheep that walk without a shepherd in this world. the luminous lives of Laura Vicuña and Seferino Namuncura emerged powerfully and fascinatingly in these lands. The high peaks, the Lanin volcano, speak to us of the unchanging and permanent presence of God accompanying our history, of the refuge of the indigenous peoples so that they would not disappear from the earth, of the patient waiting among the arid and harsh mountainous lands for justice and peace. The Chimahuin River recalls the baptismal font that makes us all brothers and sisters and gives us the same dignity. The parish and the school, the streets of the town, powerful symbols of the desire that the first missionaries brought to the ends of the earth to evangelize and educate. The little ranch which witnessed the free and faithful devotion of our girl, Laura, and her heartfelt desire to rescue her mother. The kultrun, a sacred musical instrument of the Mapuche people, which today guards the remains of Seferino in the high mountains, reminds us that our lives will have a happy ending and that in God our dreams and desires will find rest. The shrine of Laura Vicuña and Our Lady of the Snows, which embodies the integration of peoples, restoring the beauty of dialogue and cultural exchange in all its architecture and design. The beauty of the transparent risen Christ presiding over the temple and the beautiful image of the Virgin of the Snows, whom Laura Vicuña appears to be embracing tightly, all with Mapuche features, stand out in this place. The imposing Via Christi Park offers pilgrims the opportunity to experience the living gospel, the entire history and memory of a people who find in faith the meaning to continue walking, believing, and dreaming. Let us thank the Lord together for being able to come together to these holy lands from which so much light comes to us. And let us continue to encourage and rekindle in ourselves the missionary fire in every corner of the world.